Welcome back. It's time for Chapter 8 of our story, School's Out, by Joanna Hurwitz. I'm reading today with permission from the Scholastic Publishing Company. Chapter 8 is called At the Movies. How many of you have ever been to the movies? It's a lot of fun. Let's see if Lucas and his family have fun. 2 more weeks and summer vacation would be over. 2 more weeks and school would start again. How could the whole summer have gone so quickly? Lucas wondered. In less than 2 weeks, Genevieve would be gone. Lucas decided that he would miss her. It hadn't been bad having her around all summer. Whenever he was worried, he didn't think he would like her. In fact, he wondered how he would ever have had a chance to play with Julio or any of his friends if Genevieve hadn't been there to watch and take care of the twins. How could he have shot any basketballs if Marcus and Marius were underfoot? It was absolutely impossible to play Monopoly or cards or build a jigsaw puzzle with his 2 little brothers grabbing at everything. Thank goodness for Genevieve. On the next to last Wednesday of summer vacation, Lucas woke to discover it was raining outside. Sometimes on rainy days this summer, he'd gone to play at Julio's house. Once on a rainy day, Lucas' mother had taken Lucas and Julio to the Science Museum. Marcus and Marius had stayed home with Genevieve. Today, however, Julio had gone somewhere with his brothers, and Mrs. Cott had a bad headache. Just not up to any trips today, she told Lucas when he asked if she would take him to the museum again. I'll teach you a new card game when the little ones are napping, Genevieve promised Lucas. She put them in their beds for their afternoon nap. These days, as the twins were nearing their 3rd birthday, it was getting harder and harder to make them take their afternoon nap. Neither Marcus nor Marius wanted to sleep. They kept jumping out of bed and coming to see what Lucas was doing. Lucas wasn't doing much. He was feeling bored. Lucas opened the newspaper to look at the comics. As he turned the page, he found a big ad. There's a whole afternoon of cartoons at Movie World today, he reported to his mother. It starts at 2 o'clock. Could I go? Genevieve could drive you there, said Mrs. Codd. Perhaps a short ride in the car would soothe the twins. I want to see the movies, shouted Marcus, who had overheard the exchange. Me too, shouted Marius, running from the bedroom. He didn't know what they were talking about, but he didn't want to be left out of anything. You're too little to watch movies, said their mother. Genevieve and I could take care of them, offered Lucas. They watch TV, so they could sit still to movies too, he suggested. Yes, yes, said Marcus, jumping up and down. Take me to the movies. I want to go too, shouted Marius. Mrs. Cott sighed. All right, she gave in. This will be an experiment, and it will give me a little peace and quiet this afternoon. You need a piece of quiet, Genevieve agreed. You'll be good, won't you? She asked the twins. Yes, said Marcus. Me too, said Marius. At the movie theater, there was a huge number of children and parents. I guess all the mothers wanted to have a piece of quiet this afternoon, said Genevieve. It was the second time she had made the mistake between peace and quiet. This time Lucas explained. In a way, the words were like twins, like Marius and Marcus. They were the same, but yet different. Lucas looked around. He saw Cricket Kaufman standing in line to buy a ticket. She was with another girl whom Lucas didn't know. He was surprised that Cricket liked cartoons. Lucas recognized many other kids from school. There were several kids who looked as young as his brothers. Genevieve bought 4 tickets, and then they could enter. Inside the theater, the cartoons had not yet begun. The overhead lights were on so they could look for seats. There were so many children that they had to look around for a couple of minutes before they could find 4 seats together. Genevieve went in first. Then Marcus and Marius and Lucas got the seat on the aisle. The twins were so small that their legs didn't reach the floor. They stuck out of their seats instead. You must sit very quietly. Pretend you're watching television at home, he told his brothers. You look with your eyes, not with your mouth, he added. He remembered that when he was little, his mother had always said that to him. All around them, other children were rattling candy papers, making a lot of noise. Marcus stood up on his seat to see better. You must sit down because no one can see behind you, said Genevieve. Where's the movie? Asked Marcus, looking around. It will start very soon now, said Genevieve. Sure enough, the lights dimmed and they were sitting in the darkened theater. Only the red lights above the exits were left on. Loud music began and the screen lit up. It's the movies, shouted Marcus. All the other children were talking, so it didn't seem important to remind him about looking with his eyes. Once the action began on the screen, the audience quieted down. Lucas alternated between watching the cartoons and looking at his brothers. They were both mesmerized by the huge screen in front of them. Marius had his thumb in his mouth. That was one of the ways that he was different from his twin, Lucas realized. Marcus never sucked his thumb, but sometimes when he was sitting quietly, Marius did. Lucas reached over and tapped Genevieve on the shoulder. Jenny, do we have enough money for popcorn? He asked. Genevieve nodded. She reached into her pocket and handed Lucas the money. I'll watch the little one, she said. You get the popcorn. There was no one in line for candy or popcorn now that the cartoons had begun, so Lucas returned quickly, holding 2 containers of popcorn. Lucas handed one of the containers to Genevieve. He would share his popcorn with Marius, and Marcus could share with Genevieve. He had the better deal since Marius had his thumb in his mouth. Lucas might not have to share at all. The first cartoon ended, and the children in the audience whistled and cheered. The second one began. Lucas sat back and enjoyed himself. The popcorn was hot and salty, just the way he liked it. Lucas became absorbed in the cartoon. His eyes were on the screen, and his hand automatically went from the popcorn container to his mouth. As the second cartoon came to an end, he looked over at the twins sitting between Genevieve and himself. He saw Marius sitting with his eyes glazed with half sleep. Somehow, though, incredibly, Marcus was not sitting in his seat. Lucas leaned over to get a better look. Maybe Marcus had changed his seat and was now on the other side of Genevieve. Jenny, where's my brother? Hissed Lucas. The babysitter turned her head from the screen and noticed the empty seat next to her and let out a gasp. I don't know, she said. Her voice was full of fear. Lucas felt sick. It could have been from eating the popcorn too fast, but he didn't think so. How could they have lost Marcus? He was sure Marcus hadn't walked up or down the aisle. He would have seen him. Lucas looked down on the floor. Even in the half-darkness, he could see bits of popcorn and candy wrappers all around. He noticed that there was a narrow space underneath each seat. It was big enough for a little boy or a small adult to crawl under. Maybe he's under here, he said to Genevieve. I'll look for him. Lucas went down on his hands and knees and looked under the seat where Marcus had been sitting. He put out his hand and tried to feel if his brother was underneath. He didn't feel anything, so he stuck his head under the seat and began to push himself forward, first under one seat and then another. As he went, he called out softly, Marcus, Marcus, where are you? There were a lot of feet all around Lucas. Someone gave him a little kick in the head, but Lucas kept sliding forward. He had a feeling this was the direction which the missing twin had gone. What are you doing under my seat? A boy asked Lucas. Looking for my brother, he whispered. What would you be doing there? You can't see a movie from down there. Lucas didn't bother to explain any further. He pushed himself forward and under the next seat. He grabbed hold of the bottom of the seat, and a woman's voice screamed out. Lucas let go fast. He realized he had grabbed someone's leg. Help! The woman screamed again. Lucas moved forward as fast as he could. Help! The action on the screen seemed a lot less interesting to the audience now that the action in the theater was moving. Some of the kids began calling out. I think it's a mouse or a rat, said the woman. I hate mice, screamed another woman. Rats are worse, shouted another voice. Turn on the lights, another parent called out. Lucas kept pushing forward. Marcus had to be here somewhere. Then, even though he was on the floor beneath the seat, he could see that the lights had been turned on. Take a look. See him under the seat? Lucas tried to stand up, but he didn't have enough room. He had to turn the angle of his body so that he could slide out the other way. Finally, he reached the aisle. 4 rows back where he had grabbed the woman by the leg, an usher was poking under the seat with a broom. Has anyone seen the mouse? The usher asked. No, but I felt him. He felt as big as a cat, someone said. He was as big as a dog, said someone else. Lucas knew he was even bigger than a cat or a dog, but he didn't have time to explain to everyone about it. He had to find Marcus. Now that the lights were on, he could look around better. He ran toward the front of the movie theater. Marcus! He shouted. There was so much commotion in the movie house that he no longer had to whisper and worry about disturbing anyone. Marcus, where are you? Lucas, a familiar voice called out. It was Marcus, but Lucas didn't see him. He looked up and down the aisle. I got the best seat, called Marcus. Lucas looked again. Sure enough, there was Marcus sitting in the very front row. Lucas ran over to him. How did you get here? He asked. You weren't supposed to leave the seat you already had. I dropped my popcorn, said Marcus. Everyone drops popcorn, said Lucas, remembering all the popcorn he had crawled over, searching for his brother. Mommy always says, pick up, said Marcus. It was true. Their mother always made the boys pick up the cookies or raisins or crayons they dropped on the floor at home. In the movies, no one picks up, said Lucas. Besides, how did you get here? I just got here, said Marcus. Lucas guessed he had taken the same route under the seats that he had. Being smaller had been a lot easier for Marcus. Come on, said Lucas. We've got to sit next to Genevieve and Marius. He took his brother by his very sticky hand and led him forward, back down the row where they had been sitting before. Halfway up the aisle, he saw Genevieve coming toward him. "Look," she called. A huge smile of relief was on her face. "When the lights came on, I told Marius not to leave his seat, and I walked around and I found Marcus." She held up the twins' hands she was holding. "That's Marius," said Lucas. "You found Marius, and he wasn't even lost. I found Marcus." Genevieve looked down and noticed for the first time that Lucas was holding a twin by the hand, too. She shrugged her shoulders. "A whole summer," she said, "and I can never tell them apart." "You learned so much English this summer. You know hundreds of new words, but you still can't tell my brothers apart." Genevieve smiled at Lucas. "You're a good boy, Lucas. You make me feel better." Then she turned to Marius. "Why did you get out of your seat? You promised you would stay." "I forgot," said Marius. "Everyone back in your seats," the usher called out. By now the aisles were filled with lots of boys and girls. "There's no mouse. We're going to turn the lights off again." Lucas and Genevieve, each holding a twin by the hand, found their seats and sat down. "You know what?" said Lucas to Genevieve. "We better each hold one of the boys by the hand for the rest of the movies." The popcorn was all gone, so he didn't need his hands for holding the container and eating. There were 6 more cartoons to go, and Lucas didn't want to risk losing either of his brothers or missing any of the movie either. "No sweat," said Genevieve. It was another expression that she had picked up this summer from Julio. That was easy for her to say. She hadn't crawled on her hands and knees half the length of the movie theater looking for Marcus. Lucas' stomach didn't bother him anymore, but he was damp with sweat. He kept holding on to Marcus' hand as he settled back to watch the cartoon. The lights went off, and the next cartoon started. Sure wasn't easy taking care of the twins, Lucas thought. He had been scared when it seemed that Marcus was lost. It was just the way his mother felt when she saw him sitting up on the roof, Lucas realized. He hadn't been afraid to go up there. Marcus hadn't been afraid sitting alone in front of the auditorium either. Still, both times there had been the possibility of danger. He'd have to keep trying not to scare his mother again. He also would have to do a better job of setting a good example for the twins. He was the only big brother they had, and they liked to copy everything that he did. Lucas looked over to be sure that Marius was safe in his seat next to Genevieve. Then, reassured that all was well, he sat back in his seat and focused his attention on the screen. He squeezed Marcus' hand pretty gently. Soon, the twins would be old enough to play real games with him. They were lucky to have him for a big brother, he realized. Too bad there was only one of him to go around. After all, he had 2 of them. He'd just have to work twice as hard at being a good big brother. He knew he could do it. How about you? Are you a good big brother or sister? Or maybe you're a good little brother or sister to your family. I'll see you later for the last chapter of School's Out.